and welcome to this show. Welcome to the show. Yes, still have some things to figure out, but very happy to see you here. Anyway, yes, I am. I actually am, and okay. Hope it works like this and like this. Yes. Now, what I do? I put this. Okay, this is good. This is here. So he's here. This is good. All right, as you know, all of you, that today is the guest show, and my guest back.
Your guest is back.
Okay, so actually I've launched so we are live. Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Thanks for the warning.
Should I put your camera? Yes, I should. Wait. I'll put your camera. I decided to hire you for just before when you enter. So, hello, Alejandro.
Hi Dina, how are you doing? Happy to be here.
Yeah, good, and you?
I'm doing fine. It's a little bit before my usual wake up time. So, my head is spinning a bit slowly, but we're getting used to it. How are you doing? How are things all the way over there?
Oh, well, I'm doing fine, but yeah, I'm in a kind of emergency situation because like an hour ago, I've got the message from my internet provider that I will have an internet cut from 5 till 6, which is like in half an hour.
And is this a common problem you have, that randomly your internet service provider will just be like, you know what, you don't have internet, deal with it?
Yeah, actually, yes, sometimes it happens because as you have seen, perhaps you have noticed, I am in the boat, actually, in the middle of the ocean, trying to reach the American coast as your predecessors have done. When did they do that? They did it like they did it like 400 years ago, 500 years ago.
The predecessors?
Yes.
The ones that came from Europe?
Yes, exactly.
I think, yeah, something along those lines, actually. I think the first landing in my country, in Costa Rica, was like very late 1400s, so like 1492 or something like that. It was a while ago.
Yeah, so that's, you see, now I'm trying to do the same stuff. I'm in the boat trying to conquer the other world, and my internet is not that good here. So
can't conquer the internet nowadays. The world without internet nowadays.
Exactly. So I think we will have some kind of a plan B. But just for you, ladies and gentlemen, to be ready for the fact that we might actually go off in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then see how it goes. So let's try to use these 30 minutes we have as good as we can on maximum.
Sounds good. Let me log on chess.com because I think I accidentally closed it.
Yeah, I was thinking about asking some general questions to you before we...
Go for it. I'm all yours for the next hour and a half, so...
Next 30 minutes, you wanted to say.
Whatever you want.
Okay. Yes, so... Alejandro Ramirez.
It's close enough, yes.
You became Grandmaster at the age of 15. Wow. This is so much impressing. You come... Yeah.
I feel like when I made it, making it at 15 was like a really cool thing. And now, because when you made Grandmaster at 15, back when I made it, this was like a long time ago, everybody knew 15-year-old Grandmaster. But now I feel like if a Grandmaster is 15 and just started, there's a chance I've never heard of them. It just seems like all these kids are so strong and they learn so fast and they're all so talented. And they make Grandmaster at 15, like, I wouldn't say like it was nothing, but it's it's funny to see how so many resources have become available to the chess world, and people get so much stronger so much quicker.
Yeah, that's true, especially all those Indians. But back to
Mm,
that, when you became in Grandmaster, it was 2013, right?
2003 actually.
Yes, that's what I meant. Sorry, that's what I,
Unless you think,
no, no,
I mean,
no,
I
no.
do look a little bit younger than I am, but not that much younger.
No, you do look younger. That's true, but that's what I meant exactly. So, but that time it was very shocking. I mean, as you say, it's
Yeah, I think back then it was not very usual for Latin America to produce GMs to begin with. Or we don't have the resources or the tournaments that Europeans do, or even Americans. So it was kind of unusual to become GM in that environment. You still see very few Latin American grandmasters. Actually, my region, Central America, only has one other besides myself. So it's really, really unusual. And to make it at 15, well, I was pretty proud of that one.
yeah, and I saw that you were the first Central American player to become a grandmaster.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not like a culture of chess. It's kind of the countries where you have to explain people what chess is exactly. It's not a city like St. Louis or Moscow where you run into people on the street and they
St.
know what chess
Petersburg,
is,
please.
or St. Petersburg. Yeah, no, but also like they have great chess history in both of the major cities of Russia, right? They have tournaments spanning
Absolutely.
so many years.
Yes, but still, then somehow you managed to do that with all those obstacles you had.
Yeah, I got very lucky. I had a lot of support from my family, which were definitely instrumental. And I was able to land a couple of sponsorships here and there, private sponsorships in Costa Rica. And they allowed me to travel just about enough to go to Europe, play the tournaments I needed to. Things like open events, like even Aeroflot, I was able to go to when I was very, very young, which, of course, was a complete shock for me because it was so cold.
I can
But
imagine. What
I
was the
mean,
temperature?
I think it was like in the negative 20s. It was like a particularly cold February in Moscow back in 2002 and 2003, something like that. And I had to buy so much clothes for this trip because, okay, it never snows in Costa Rica. It has never snowed in my city ever. So I didn't have any kind of gear like that. But sometimes you have to play the good tournaments, right? It's part of being a chess player. If you really want to improve, you have to go play the strong tournaments. And
Absolutely.
Aeroflot was just one of them, where you have to do the whole thing. You have to get a visa. You have to go through 3 different countries to get to Russia. But at what other tournament was I going to expect to play 9 grandmasters in a row, uh, other than Aeroflot? So it was worth the trip.
And did you use all those clothes you bought after, or just through it? I mean, for the next trip to Russia?
Back then I lived in Costa Rica and I was traveling quite a bit to tournaments, but I never really went to places that were as cold as Russia. So they ended up staying in my closet for quite a while until the next Aeroflot open. There was really nothing to do with them because it's not the light winter, like it's snowing a little bit. It's the heavy, heavy, it's if you don't have this on, you'll probably die because it's that cold outside kind of gear. So in Costa Rica, I had no use for it whatsoever. I just left it in my closet for a really long time.
Wow. So you come from Costa Rica, and then at some point of your life, you decided to make that important decision
Mhm.
to move to another country.
I think it's a decision that comes pretty naturally to a lot of chess players. I think some players are born in a nice chess country and they become comfortable. Like, for example, if you are a young chess player and you're really talented and you live in Azerbaijan, then you can expect that this is the kind of culture in your country that will be good for your chess progress. The same thing if you're living in, for example, Armenia or Georgia, Russia. But there's a lot of countries where you grow up in and there's no chess. It just does not exist. We have in Costa Rica, what, maybe like 2 tournaments a year, and no grandmasters participate in it. So there's really not much you can do. as a grandmaster living in this country. So actually, I moved for many different reasons. I ended up moving for college to go to university in America, in Texas specifically, which was a great decision. I wasn't entirely motivated by chess. By that point, I wanted to quit a little bit and I wanted to dedicate some time to other things.
Really? Like
But
a
yeah,
video games producer, creator.
yeah,
That's where your education was about, right?
yeah. So my education title officially is arts and technology, but basically what I did was a master's in video game design. So
Wow.
basically what I did was design games, and I have designed quite a few, but by far the largest project I worked on was called Diablo 3. I used to do an internship for Blizzard Entertainment. So I'd spent quite a bit of my life outside of the chess world. And even though I came back eventually, and of course America it's a good place to be a chess player right now. It wasn't my original intention to move as a chess player. But I think if I had continued being a chess player, it would have made a little bit more sense back then to move to Europe rather than America. Because America,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, back then, this was before the St. Louis Chess Club started. And America's chess was not what you think of it right now. You know, it didn't have the sponsorship or the players. Back then, even the U.S. Championship was not such a prestigious tournament. They had a lot of trouble coming up with funds to actually organize that event. So I think back then, if I wanted to be purely a chess player, it would have made more sense to move somewhere like Spain.
Spain, really?
Yeah, I mean, you speak. It's nice to go somewhere where you speak the language.
Okay, yes, this point I get, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And back then, a lot of Latin American players, Cuban chess players, Venezuelan, they would move to Spain and stay there because it's so much closer to the tournaments. They get paid to play in the leagues. So it made more sense for them to be on that side of the world than in a country that actually spoke the language that they knew. Uh, I mean, I think I could also have moved to other places since my English was okay, but Spain was like the most natural.
And how was your English at that time?
It was all right. I mean, I wouldn't say it was as good as it is now. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but I'd say my English is fine. But back then, it I had like theoretical knowledge of English. I spoke it, and when I went to Europe, especially like Eastern Europe, when I was a teenager, people thought I was an American and I spoke great English. And when I moved to America, everybody was like, "You obviously have an accent, but we don't really know where it's from." So I had to like shed my accent little by little and learn a little bit more slang and more colloquial vocabulary. You know, my English was very by the book kind of English, not the way people really spoke. So I had to learn a lot of things, but I wouldn't say it was bad. Like I was easily able to attend university and understand all kinds of classes, but uh, certain things that they threw at me that were too quick, I would still have trouble catching.
Wow. And yeah, so you was it kind of a challenge for you afterwards? Like, all
I think
this.
I think this is a challenge everybody faces at some point in their life, and it's just with deeper layers. Because at some point you kind of leave the nest, right? You kind of leave home, and you
Yeah.
pursue something in your life, and there's a lot of shocks that come from leaving your home and taking care of yourself, even like paying rent, trying to make
Cooking.
money. Huh?
Cooking.
Cooking, yes. Like I had to learn how to cook. I mean,
Yeah.
all kinds of things that you never think about. I remember when I just recently moved, you're kind of used to your mom taking care of you for a long time.
Absolutely.
And the clothes that I leave on the ground, they wouldn't go away. You had to do it yourself.
Especially the socks, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you have to, learn how to do things like that. Everybody has to. But on top of that, you have this loneliness from leaving your family in another country. It's really not the same to just say I could just take, a 2-hour drive and go visit them. I mean, it's extremely expensive to do international travel, especially for a college student.
And a
So I
chess
wasn't able
player.
to really visit my parents. And the fact that culturally it was very shocking. It was not the same culture at all as a Latin American culture that I was used to. It had a lot of little details that made it worse. So I would say my first year was a lot of suffering. I had to get used
Oh,
to a lot of things. I was pretty lonely. but you get used to it, and things picked up pretty quickly, and I was able to get pretty much back on track.
As far as I can see now, you are not a typical chess player. You know, chess players they tend to be kind of introvertical. You seem to be very extroverted, and then you seem to pay attention to those social facts and everything. Yeah, that's like
I've had this debate over a few years with many different people. Is telling a chess player that you're not the stereotypical chess player a compliment? Because it usually gets used as a compliment, right? Like, oh, you're
yeah.
not the usual chess player. You're like interesting. And I don't know if it's true or not, but to your question,
It's more than
people,
it's more than when you take a player who becomes when you take a kid who becomes the second, I don't know, world youngest grandmaster of the time, like you, for example. You you kind of I don't know, imagine someone who doesn't care about all those like I don't know,
mm,
getting
I
used
think
to yeah.
no, I think I was very lucky because again, this goes back to my parents, and my parents were always about teaching me things. So, uh, the Costa Rican education system wasn't like the best thing in the world. So I was really bored very often, and my parents decided that instead of going into normal education, I should go home and learn things. My dad was an architect, so he taught me about those things. I learned computer science very early, and they always encouraged me to find new things to learn and new things to do.
Did you go to
So,
school when you growing up in Costa Rica?
sorry,
Did you go to school?
I only went to school until seventh grade. I know that everything's a little bit different in American. It would be
Yes.
translated that I went to like the beginning of middle school. I did the first year of middle school.
So like 10 years old?
I was like 12, I think, when I quit school.
Oh, so just before becoming when you were already international master. No,
I
you
was
were 13, 13
Yeah,
international master.
I was
Yeah.
about to. I was about a year away from becoming an IM when I quit school, and I did it not just for chess. I did it for a bunch of other reasons. This idea of homeschooling doesn't really exist in Costa Rica,
Okay.
so my parents really had to figure it out, and that really gave me a curiosity to learn new things. And I guess that's why I didn't become like a traditional chess player that only cares about chess. And in some ways it's good, and in some ways it's bad, because if you want to be a professional chess player and really reach the elite, you really have to be dedicated. I don't think there's a lot of room to explore so many facets of life, at least for a while. You can maybe first get to 2750, 2800, and then be like, okay, I want to diversify. But it's difficult to do it the other way around, right? To get to 2500, spend some time doing other things, and then be like, oh yeah, I'll be 2750 now. Again, you're not really going to find this
In 10
opportunity.
years. Yeah.
But I have no regrets about that, and I'm very happy with a lot of my decisions. As far as my social aspects, I say I'm a little bit of an introvert sometimes, a little bit of an extrovert sometimes. Depends on who I'm hanging out with, I guess.
Okay, so tonight you will be, or today you will be extrovert, I hope.
Yeah, today is fine because I have coffee and I'm forced to be active.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay, so uh, when you decided to quit for a while, um, your like activity, I mean, playing active, being active, and as a chess player, decided to go to the university. Was that decision tough for you?
Um, that's a good question. Not a lot of people ask that. Uh, it didn't seem tough at the time. It seemed like it's kind of like the only move at that moment is what it looked like. I was really disappointed with the chess world for a long time. I remember actually having this thought when I was in a tournament, and I just thought there are so many smart people here, but why couldn't they be doing something a little bit more useful? And I thought maybe chess is great, but I would like to see what else the world has to offer. And I think that I wouldn't have been happy uh, living my life just being a chess player and not at least trying out something else at some point. And that seemed like a very natural
Let's try again. Okay. Okay, we're back. So, yes. For all those of you who are watching us, we're back again live. So, as I told you in the beginning of this show, not to you, Alejandro, but to to our audience, I will probably have some internet connection problems. Be ready for that. Yes, we'll try to go for plan B if possible. If not, we will see how to do it later. But just let's enjoy now what we have.
Sure thing. All right. So where were we actually? I forgot what we were talking
Yeah,
about.
I was trying to interrogate you like in the police station.
Go for it. It's a fine interrogation. It's
Yeah.
pleasant memories actually. I haven't thought about this in a while.
Yeah, so the question that I'm that goes to my mind that I ask you is always like when you have this decision, like I also had it at some point, do I go to the university or do I focus on chess only? And then at some moment you have this idea in mind that you want to be an open-minded person, you want to get a like education, like at least basic one, and you want to you want to see the world. It's a kind of a always. I think it's a kind of a sacrifice that you need to do and to take. And how was it for you? And you were about to tell me that.
No, as I was saying, I don't know if it cut off, but as I was saying, it felt
Yeah.
like the only thing to do, because I think I would have been very disappointed just being in the chess environment without actually seeing what else there was out there to explore. But I don't think it's a choice that everybody should make. Uh, like for example, a person like Hikaru, he went to college and he hated it, and it wasn't for him. That was not his environment. I think nowadays also a lot of people can learn without necessarily going to university. There's so many
True.
resources out there to become proficient at something, but it's still a decision that a lot of chess players have because when you think about it, a lot of American universities, including my own, I am the head of one of them, are offering scholarships for a lot of grandmasters or international masters, kind of like as a way to get them here to play chess for the university, but it also gives them an education. And I think it's a very tempting way for a lot of players to have a backup plan because I don't know how it is nowadays in Russia, but being a 2600 grandmaster, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you a living. It's you have to still hustle. You need to like give lessons, play a bunch of leagues. It's not the that you become a GM and now your financial worries are gone for the rest of your life. And a lot of people think, well, I can use my chess skills, but I could also just transfer into something different.
Yeah, I heard that many times, especially from the Americans, like Daniel Naroditsky, I think also spoke about that. That even being 2700 does not necessarily offer you something stable when you're in America because it's not that chess-wise popular.
Yeah, I mean, it's different again, very like country to country, right? Like if you're in Iceland and you're a GM, you get a stipend. I'm not saying it's a huge stipend, but you get something just because you exist and you're a grandmaster. But if you're an American GM, it doesn't really matter what your rating is. You don't get anything. I mean, you might get some private sponsorship. Maybe you have some tournaments to play at the St. Louis Chess Club. But specifically from the American Federation, you don't actually get anything. You don't get anything from the government at all. I mean, we're barely recognized as a sport.
That was my question.
So yeah, so it varies a lot, right? Here, you can give a lot of lessons, and there's a lot of opportunities to do other things rather than play. But as specifically playing, it's fair. It's almost impossible to make a living here.
Yeah, it's sad to hear that.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's kind of the truth, and it's only getting worse with the situation because I mean there are no tournaments right now, right? So
Yes.
a lot of people that they relied on playing weekend events or they traveled a lot to play what we call the open tournaments, where you'll play, there'll be two or three GMs. First prize is like $2,000 or $3,000, and they basically travel around the country playing these little events. Um, you know, they don't exist anymore. So it's becoming a lot harder, and a lot of people are switching into teaching.
Or streaming.
Uh, or streaming, yes. I don't know how the money works on streaming unless you're Hikaru and you have 30,000 viewers
By
and
the
then you
way,
get a part.
yeah, that'll be our next topic. Yeah. Yes. No, no, actually, as your education was about video producing, video games, and Twitch is for video games, actually. So I was surprised to know that to get to know that you actually were so close to this field, and yet you're not streaming, you're not into this. How come?
Well, I've considered streaming. It's not so much that I don't like it. I just think that once this goes away, I don't have the time or dedication to be streaming consistently anyway. So I think I would just do it for a month and then I'll disappear. Because actually, I do have my university things to attend to. So
Okay.
at some point, I will have to go back and take care of my team and teach. We have, I think, 15 students right now in the team. So it's kind of large and everybody needs something at any time. So I thought about streaming, but it's not like I've completely said, no, I don't want to do this. But I know that it requires a lot of consistency. And if you really want to get your channel out there, you need to, it's work. You need to work hard at it. And it's not where I want to put my focus on right now. But again, I wouldn't like completely, completely say that I wouldn't do it ever.
Yeah, but even something like once or twice per month, when the world gets open, you don't think it would be an option? I mean,
Yeah, why not?
you seem to have all the uh, traits of the character to for the thing. I mean,
Well, I
you're
appreciate that. That I take as a compliment.
okay. At least something.
Yeah, I mean, I do have fun streaming. I've done it before. Maybe not on my own channel, but I think we had a stream from here. Good friend of mine, Christian Kirilla, took
Okay,
over my
your colleague.
studio. We had a party here, like after a tournament. So we had a bunch of grandmasters. There were a couple of cocktails being passed around, and we had a really late night streaming session from this room. So that was a lot of fun, and I